Hey judges, this screencast will cover the basics of debate judging. If you're hired to be a debate judge, you need to be at the school by 3:45 p.m. to check in. The first night we'll have a meeting at 3:45 in the library for all judges. After that, the other 3 nights, we won't have a meeting at the start. We'll just be starting the first round at 3:45. So if you plan to be there by 3:45, you'll be in perfect time. Frankenmuth judges, you'll pick up your folder at the registration table outside of the library that'll have all your materials in it. All other judges, you'll need to find the coach who asked you to judge to get your materials. You'll be given a schematic that will tell you what room you'll be judging in and when. And you'll also be given a judge number, which is what you look for on the schematic to know where you're supposed to be. When you enter the classroom where you're asked to judge, you'll first take attendance with the schematic, so you'll make sure you have the right teams there. And you'll ask the students to fill out the ballot. They will put their names on it so that you know who they are. The very first speech of the debate will be the first affirmative constructive, or the 1AC, and that student will begin the debate round. Your responsibility while you're listening to the debate round is to time all speeches very carefully. You have a separate sheet that tells you all of the speech lengths on it and who should be going in what order. It's also important that you give students a time remaining signal several times during the speech. That could be an audible signal, like saying 5 when there are 5 minutes remaining, 3 when there are 3 minutes remaining, etc. Or a lot of judges will give either a hand signal, like holding 4 fingers up if there are 4 minutes remaining, or an index card that has a time on it, like 4, and that signals 4 minutes remaining. Doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you do it so that the students have some idea of how much longer they have to speak. When time expires, for instance, in an 8-minute speech at the 8-minute point, you can allow a student to finish the sentence they are on, but then you need to stop them. Some of these debaters will go on forever if you let them. You have to keep time and you have to stop them. During the debate round, it's your job to take careful notes. We call that flowing in debate. And there's no real special way to do it. It's up to you how you keep track of it. But by the end of a debate, you'd never remember what you heard in the first speech if you don't write some of it down. So please do take notes. The essential idea is that the burden of proof is on the affirmative debaters. That means that the affirmatives are telling you, the judge, that there's something wrong with the way we do things now. And they're going to present a plan for how to fix it and a case, which is all their reasons why that plan is a good idea. The negatives, on the other hand, are going to try to prove to you that either the plan is a really bad idea or that it's not necessary. The way we're doing things now is fine. So the negatives are going to try to win one or more key arguments. And if they do, the negative team should win the debate. The affirmatives really have to win every argument, every key argument, in order to win the debate. The key arguments are called the stock issues in debate. And there are 5 altogether. The first 3 are harm, inherency, and solvency. Harm is the statement that there is a problem that needs to be solved. In other words, somebody is being harmed by the way we're doing things now. The affirmative teams are going to try to prove that somebody is being harmed by the way we're doing things now, the status quo. The negative team is going to try to prove that no one's being harmed, that the way we're doing things now is okay. The second stock issue is called inherency, and inherency is a statement that something is causing this problem to continue, and it won't fix itself. In other words, the affirmatives are going to try to prove to you that this harm that they've talked about isn't going to solve itself. There's nothing in the works, there's nothing being worked on now that will solve this problem. The only thing that will solve it is this affirmative plan that they're presenting. The negative team, on the other hand, is going to maybe try to prove to you that this harm will be fixed on its own. Something is happening right now that will cause this to be fixed already. We don't need the affirmative plan. The last primary stock issue is called solvency, and this is when the affirmative team is proving to you that the plan will solve the problems that they said were problems. So they might prove this to you by looking at another place where this plan has been implemented, say another country. Or they may just present research statistics that state that this will happen. This will fix problems. The negative team will do just the opposite. They'll try to prove to you that this problem won't be solved by the plan. 2 other stock issues to know about. One is called topicality. Topicality states that the affirmative team must present a plan that fits our current resolution. And you should have a handout that states our current resolution. In other words, the affirmative team is required to do that assignment. They're required to debate about that topic. And if the negative team gives a topicality argument, they're stating that the affirmative team did not fit the resolution. They did something different. And they're saying that it's not fair and that the affirmative team should lose the debate then. So the negative team may try to prove that the affirmative plan isn't substantially increasing something. And then the affirmative team has to prove that they are. If the negative team successfully argues a topicality argument, then the affirmative team should lose the debate. More than likely, though, the affirmative team will be able to answer that argument back, and they will present reasons as to why they are topical. The last stock issue to know about is disadvantage. And disadvantage is brought up by the negative team, and the negative team will argue that this plan that the affirmative team presented will cause some really bad effect to happen. Something really will happen that will outweigh the good that the plan is bringing. The affirmative team will then argue that no, our plan will not cause this, or that it's not going to outweigh the harms that we're fixing. So what else do you need to know? Well, there are a few other things to know. One is about counterplans. Counterplans are not very common, but they are something to know about. A counterplan is a negative plan that's presented as an alternative to the affirmative plan. In order to succeed, a counterplan must be non-topical, which means it doesn't fit the resolution. If it fits the resolution, it's sort of like the affirmative team the negative team scoring a basket for the other team because they've done the resolution. The negative team's job is to negate the resolution, so any plan they come up with has to be not topical. It also has to be better than the AF plan. It has to cause some sort of benefit that outweighs the affirmative plan and makes it better. Otherwise, why choose it? Also, time limits are very strict in debate, so please watch your timing sheet, the sheet that I gave you with all the speeches and times, and make sure you're stopping kids when their time has expired. Prep time must also be timed. Each side gets 8 minutes to use throughout the whole round of debate, and that's shared between the debaters on the team. So the 2 affirmatives share 8 minutes, the 2 negatives share 8 minutes, and you have to let them prepare if they need prep time, but deduct that from their 8 minutes. Another thing to consider is that you should only be thinking about the arguments presented by the debaters, not your own personal views when scoring the debate. You may completely disagree with a debater, but if he or she is doing a good job of presenting evidence and speaking very confidently, you really need to consider that, not what your own personal views are. After the debate round, please try not to give any oral comments. Please write it all down. Fill out your ballot as quickly as possible. I recommend writing as you listen so that you don't have to do it all after the round. Turn your ballot into the tabulation table, which is right outside of the library. And before you do that, check for accuracy. Check that your team numbers are correct, ranks, points. You've assigned ranks and points for each student. You've written a decision and a basis for your decision, and you've signed the bottom of it. Thank you so much for judging. We couldn't do this without you, and please feel free to contact me with any questions.